morning. All right, so like you said, my name's Sam. I'm from Ripon, Wisconsin. My wife Meg's here with me. I've got a couple boys that are 4-year-old and 2-year-old, and this is like a beautiful gift to us this morning because they're with Grandma, and we're here with you. This is like way more fun for the morning. They're great, but this is fun. So with that being said, thanks for having me here. Actually, I didn't say this in the last service, but I want to tell you all, I owe a great debt to Oshkosh Community Church. In high school, my older brother and we thought, I heard there's a service in Oshkosh on a Sunday night, and there wasn't. There was a small Bible study that was happening, and we just kind of went. And then for the next 2 years of my life, I went there almost every Sunday night, and literally that place and that group of people taught me how to study the Bible more than anything else. So that's really cool. It's kind of a fun old story, throwback. So I owe that to you guys. I heard you guys in this series called In the Meantime. That's pretty fun. I was looking at it and thinking about it, all these different ways that you look at the book of Revelation and how it's talking about how we were at one point in the beginning of time in Genesis, and now we're looking towards this future, this new city that's going to happen at some point in the future, and we're in the meantime. And it got me to thinking about a couple of different things. It got me thinking about poopy diapers. I don't know why you'd think of that, but think about this for a second. Okay, you have a baby, and they're beautiful, right? They're so sweet. You hold them in your arms. It's this lovely new life that you get to hold and care for, and then you find out they're just filled with crap, right? Like, they're filled with all this stuff, and it's you got to deal with it, right? And it made me think about how right now that's such a great picture of where we're at. We have this beautiful new life that we've been given, this thing that we get to have for ourselves, this new life because of Jesus, and we still live in a world filled with crap, right? We're living in a world filled with crap when we have this new life, and it's beautiful, and it's hard. And so we're in the meantime, right? We're caught in the middle of this crazy, stinky world, and at the same time, we get to experience the beginnings of this new and forever life that God promises to us. Man, it's fun to think about that because there's a future to it. We don't have to worry about that stuff, that stinky stuff so much because we know that there's a future. Before we jump too far deep in this morning, though, I want to take a moment. I always feel really inadequate up here, and so I always like to start by praying and asking God to lead because that's the only way we can do this. So would you pray with me? Dear God, thank you for the gift of being here this morning with all these good people. I'm so grateful for that chance. God, I simply ask that you would be with us, that you would lead our time together, and that it would be your words that would pierce through, and that we would be excited and thrilled to go on out into this world and enjoy the good gifts that you give to us. I pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen. So I feel like this morning needs a little bit of context. And that context goes all the way back to the very beginning. Maybe you've heard the story before. But in the very beginning, God, He formed everything that is. He formed the stars and the moon. He formed our planet, this world that we live on. He formed it out of nothing, and it came to be, and he made the earth, he made light, he made dark, he made the mountains, he made the oceans, he made plants and animals, he made fish in the sea. And then there came this moment where he reached down into the dirt, he scooped it up, and he formed it into this thing. This form that we now know as people, as humans. But they weren't people or humans yet. Because at that final moment on the last day of making creation, God did this thing. He went, whew, and he breathed his life into that form. And then he called it very, very good. In Genesis 1:27, it says, so God created human beings in his own image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female. He created them. And then a couple verses later, he said this about it. Genesis 1:31, then God looked over all he had made, and he saw that it was very good. On each of the previous days, he said it was good. On this time, on this final day of making creation, he said it is very good. You and me, all of us sitting here this morning, we are dust, made distinct and unique by God's image, by God's breath, by the breath that filled us. It was the only time God called it very good, and I don't know if you know this or not, but that's what makes us different. That's what makes us unique. That's why God loves us so much, because we are his special creation. And that's where we start. We start the story there at the very beginning, and it was good. No, strike that. It was very good. God's creation. But since that very beginning, that very good moment at the beginning, something's happened. Something changed about all of those circumstances. This thing happened, this sin. This moment when humans thought for themselves that they knew better than God, that they could decide for themselves what was right or wrong. And they ate this fruit, and something changed. Suddenly, this image that God put into us, that he formed inside of us, we no longer see God's image like we used to. We no longer see it in other people like we used to. We degrade them. We don't think of them as people. We think of them as things. We don't see God's image like we used to. And we don't see ourselves with God's image in us like we once did. There is only one reason why God's image is still recognizable. Now, to explain that, I have a question for you. Did any of you know what iodine is? Can you raise your hand? Iodine, yes? Okay, well, iodine's this really important thing. I don't know if any of you have gone hiking or gone off to far, like out west, and gone hiking out in the mountains or anything, but if you ever do that, this is something really important, and if you ever want to do this, it's something really important for you to know, like it could save your life. Because if you go out into the mountains and you're hiking, you say you got your backpack, you got your tent, got your stuff, your gear, all the things you need, you head out west, and you're a couple days into your hike, and you get up into the mountains, and there's these streams, right? They're beautiful. They're amazing. They're so crystal cold and fresh. It's amazing. They're beautiful. You want to just drink the water with a straw, right? And so you take your water bottle, because you finally had all the water that you brought along with you, and you take it down there, and you fill it up where it's nice and bubbly and good, and you're going to be, all right, this is going to be great, fresh, crystal clear water. It's going to be amazing. I can't wait. If you were to drink that water, do you know what would happen? Bad things. Bad things would happen to you, because there's stuff in that water, and we think it's cool and clear and really clean and awesome, but it's not. It's filled with these viruses and this bacteria that if you drink it, it's not so good, and you will be not happy for a while. And you could get seriously ill. That's where iodine comes in. Iodine is this thing that you open up the cap and you put a couple of drops in, and what it does is it removes the circumstances, or what would you call it? It removes what is necessary for this bacteria and viruses to thrive. They can't do it anymore. It changes the water so that those viruses and bacteria can't live like they were. And it makes the water pure and drinkable again. Isn't that an amazing picture of what Jesus does for us? Something meant to be pure, life-giving, but it's been tainted by these viruses and this bacteria, and it's purified, made into something that sustains life again. What you have to know this morning is that if you believe in and follow Jesus, you have to know that he has made it possible through his death and resurrection for this image of God that's in each and every one of us to be made pure and visible and recognizable again. To cleanse it, to make us into people who show God to the world around us, who see God's image in other people. Jesus is who changes our lives in this simple yet crazy profound way. Now, if you know anything about this, it is that simple, and it's also way more deep and full and meaningful than that. But for our purposes this morning, we're not going to go any farther down that line of thought. We're just going to take that as our framework this morning, okay? We're going to use that as what we're going to have in the back of our minds as we tackle these verses that we find in Revelation, this letter that Jesus wrote through John to this church in Pergamum. So, with that as our framework, as God making us into his image, us tainting and defiling that image, and then Jesus purifying it, let's read these next verses. It's in Revelation 2:12 through 13. And to the angel of the church in Pergamum, write the words of him who has the sharp two-edged sword. This is Jesus speaking. I know where you dwell, where Satan's throne is. Yet you hold fast my name. And you did not deny my faith, even in the days of Antipas, my faithful witness, who was killed among you, where Satan dwells. That's the beginning of this letter to this church in Pergamum, and it's a great beginning, right? Who doesn't want to hear those words? You've been faithful. It's been awesome. Great job. That's awesome. It starts out great. Holding fast to Jesus' name, trusting Jesus in the face of persecution. It's good stuff. And by the way, what you need to know is that in Pergamum, persecution was a real thing. It was a real challenge they faced. In Pergamum, the people, they were far more likely to worship Zeus or Dionysus. So these other temples that they would go to and worship, and it was much more common for them to be there than it was for them to be Christian. And so to say that you worship the one true God, Jesus Christ, would have made you a significant target for persecution. They've been all over it. In Pergamum, one of the obstacles Christians faced was this blatant persecution. They even had the death penalty. It was the one place in the Roman Empire, or one of the few places in the Roman Empire where the death penalty was allowed. It's kind of crazy, right? And so they could do that. They could put you to death, and they did. They did. Antipas was killed for it. They called it the city of Satan because there's all these other places, and they were really blatantly persecuting the church. And yet, the church stood strong. Man, I'd love to hear that. I'd hope that we would have that same thing written to us one day. Wouldn't that be great to hear those words? Maybe you've had it. Maybe you've experienced it in your life where you've had these moments where people have said nasty things, where they've made fun of you for what you believe, where they've even ridiculed you or done whatever, and they've made you feel like less than because you believe certain things, but you've stood strong. Man, that's an awesome thing. You should acknowledge that this is what Jesus would write to you then. That's important to know and be encouraged by it. You've done the right thing. That's persecution. That's something we all maybe face to some degree. Not nearly as much as they were then, but maybe we face that a little bit. But what about when it comes to another potential obstacle for Christians? There's persecution, but what about the other stuff? In fact, what about the obstacle that the church of Pergamum faced even more so? What about when it comes to deception? Deception. Can you handle deception? Is that something you're able to identify and steer clear of in your life? Check out these verses. Revelation 2:14 through 16. But I have a few things against you. You have some there who hold the teaching of Balaam, who taught Balak to put a stumbling block before the sons of Israel, so that they might eat food sacrificed to idols and practice sexual immorality. So also, you have some who hold the teaching of the Nicolaitans. Therefore, repent. If not, I will come to you soon and war against them with the sword of my mouth. So we started out really good, right? No, I don't know, not so much. There's something he has against them. But we have to ask ourselves, as we're reading this passage, what exactly is the problem, right? What is the problem Jesus is talking about? What's actually the issue that he's trying to get at with these people? Because I don't know about you, but there are times when I'll read these phrases in the Bible. I'll read them, like sexual morality and eating food sacrificed to idols, and I'll think to myself, like, man, okay, I think I kind of know what that means. I kind of get it. All right, I'll just keep on reading and think to myself, you know what, I shouldn't eat food sacrificed to idols, and I don't go to any weird, freaky ceremonies and eat food there, so I think I'm good there. Check. We're good. You guys too? Check. Okay, hope so. And then in addition to that, like, okay, the whole sexual immorality thing. All right, I'm married and I don't look at stuff on screens that I'm not supposed to. All right, check. And I keep on reading. Right? Keep on reading because it doesn't affect me. I'm good. That's what we think. But to stop there is to miss the whole point Jesus is making. The biggest thing Jesus is warning the church about. In these verses, what's most likely being talked about are these religious ceremonies that, like Old Testament Israelites, and like this is the Balak part, right, where he had fooled the Israelites into doing these things and eating these food sacrificed to idols. People were fooled, the church of Pergamum were fooled into participating in this stuff. These ceremonies, they would have been culturally normal. It's a typical thing, right? They were probably not that much different than the Super Bowl party for us. So we're watching the Packers every weekend. It's just what you did on the weekend. It was the Friday evening entertainment. You would go and you'd eat this big, tasty meal, just happened to be sacrificed to idols. And then you'd get aroused watching something that the Nicolaitans were doing in the temple, and you were part of it. Seems like harmless stuff to them. Like, I don't know, dinner and a movie. And it made you feel like you were part of something special because you were part of that event. You were there for it. You were with them. And I've been doing it since I grew up, right? My parents went, I'm going. What's the big deal? It's harmless. The title of this talk this morning is In the Meantime, Sex and Drugs and Stuff. Okay? That's a little eye-catching and a little goofy, but the reason for that title is because as Christians, we all know that's the stuff we're supposed to avoid. It's the naughty stuff. Don't go close to those things, right? So you feel a little bit uncomfortable. You stay away from those stuff, you're good. Sex and drug stuff, all the naughty things. You steer clear of that, you're good. You can laugh, it's okay. But here's the thing. None of those things were evil because of what they are. They were not evil because of what they are. In fact, sex can be pretty amazing, and certain chemicals, otherwise known as drugs, can save people's lives. They're not evil because of what they are. They're evil because of what we sometimes allow them to represent to us. Right? I'll say that one more time. They're not evil because of what they are. They're evil because of what we sometimes allow them to represent to us. They often represent and really are abused in order to obtain these certain things, like a feeling, power, a high, the ability to belong to something. We all want that. And we often think these are the ways to get it. In short, they replace God in our lives in these sneaky and deceptive ways. And people in this church, they were buying into it. They were going for it. It made them feel good. But guess what? Sex and drugs and stuff, that's not the only culprit. Most of us here this morning, it's probably the least likely culprit. It's the ones that we think are good that we have to watch out for, like a job, right? It's that thing that can replace for us what God's supposed to give us. Or a sport, maybe. For me, I enjoy running, and so I like to go off for good long runs, and I get this feeling sometimes, the runner's high or something, and I feel good about myself. If I'm not careful, that can become more important than what God gives me. Maybe it's a friend or a lover. Any attempt we make to get that higher feeling, to get what is God's to give, not ours to search out for and find, we're doing the same thing that the people in the church of Pergamum were doing. Because we got to be honest with ourselves. Getting that promotion is never going to heal you. It's not going to be enough. And a healthy lifestyle and diet and all that stuff is really great, but it's not the thing that's really going to make you healthy. No one completes you. Only God can do that. The warning in these verses is to not let anything slyly become who God should be in your life, not even something that seems harmless. If you look to anything in our lives to make us feel like we're enough or even feel like we're better than some other people, there's a problem there. For me, when I was in college, which is really actually a longer time ago than you might imagine. It's like a decade ago that I started college, so I was thinking back to that, and in that freshman year, going to campus and showing up, it was in a small school, Hodunk town in Crawfordsville, Indiana, way off the beaten path, and I found myself at this college, and fraternity life was the life there. 75% at the time of students that were in that school were in fraternities. It was an all-male school. Kind of weird, not that weird, but kind of weird. And it wasn't religious at all, okay? So it was this unique place, and fraternities were the life. And there was this feeling that you got that you had to be in one, that you had to get in there and be part of it because you'd belong. And then they talk more about it and all the different pieces to it. You get access to this secret knowledge of sorts. There's this fraternity secret. It's not like it's anything super weird. And just as a disclaimer, fraternities and all those things can be used for good. I was there and ended up being part of it. And there were 60-some guys in our house that we lived in. We all lived together. And nobody was a professing Christian when I got there, like outwardly. By the end of the time that I was there, God used a bunch of people in some big ways, and there were like 15 guys studying the Bible every week. So that was really cool. So there's cool things that can happen, but the allure of them is that you'll be special. You'll be part of something that you weren't before. You'll belong. You'll have some secrets that only you guys know. And then in addition to that, you'll be powerful because you're part of it and other people aren't. It's actually a really good description of what people were desiring in Pergamum. And we know this because of the next following verses. So with that in mind, listen to these following verses in Revelation 2:17. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. To the one who conquers, I will give some of the hidden manna, and I will give him a white stone with a new name written on the stone that no one knows except the one who receives it. Now you read that, and you might think to yourself, man, that sounds really weird right now, right? That sounds a little odd. What is it? The stone, the hidden manna, the name on it? What is Jesus even talking about? What is this all about? But in context, when you see what was happening in the area, Jesus is promising them far better secret stuff. Far more power, a place to belong that goes so far past what anything that this world can offer. The culture of the time was to belong to something so you could have power and belong and be known and have this special stuff. It was what all this stuff with food sacrificed to idols and these sexual acts happening in these temples, that's what that was all about. Jesus is saying in these verses, you know the special stuff that the pagan temples promise? The secret stuff, the belonging? It's got nothing on what I have for you. It's got nothing on that. So don't jump through their hoops. You don't need to. Jesus is saying, don't settle for an earthly club when you can have what I offer. Don't think you can earn something better than what I freely give to you. Maybe you're here this morning and you're wondering, well, what does Jesus give? Maybe you've forgotten. It's been a while. You've heard of Jesus and you're thinking to yourself, man, what is this all about? Maybe you've been coming for a while and you're like, man, life's kind of tough right now. What is this thing all about? Why am I even following Jesus? What does he offer? What is he giving to us? What's better than what I can find on the street corner or in the movie theater or whatever, in a dark place somewhere? Remember, God made us in his image. kind of messed it up, tainted it. And then Jesus came and purified us, gave us the opportunity to be made new and clean and right before God. Which means what Jesus is offering you for a free gift is the ability to know that you are lacking nothing. Jesus makes you good before God, right before God. God is making you into who he wants you to be. It also means that your eyes, they can be opened to the good and beautiful and strong and competent person that God can make you into and be through you. To the image that God is in every person around you, the people that maybe you look at and you think, maybe I don't know if God's there, but to open your eyes to, yes, God is in every single individual person in this planet. And we can see them that way. And maybe most impactfully and importantly for today, God can open our eyes to the good things he's made for us every single day, like sex and medicine and food and fall leaves floating on the breeze, right? It's beautiful out there. And friendship and love. And you can enjoy them properly because they are good gifts from a loving God. You can have access to them. They're there. You don't have to do anything. They're there for you to enjoy. They're a gift from God. Because remember, we're caught in the middle here. We're in the meantime. We live in a stinky, kind of crap-filled world sometimes. Filled with all kinds of the stinky diapers. And life stinks plenty often. But it is a world that God made and called very good because you're in it. And that's important to know. It's a world that is filled with all these good gifts that are these seeds of what the future holds for us. What he promises us will be in the end. And you have access to them now. Yeah, life stinks. Yeah, life is hard. But God has given us these things. If the band wants to start coming up here, I'm going to finish out this morning with a challenge. And this challenge, I think personally, is one of those types of challenges that's really, I really encourage you to take it. You should really accept this challenge and go for it because it's really going to make your life better this week. Literally, tangibly better. You'll enjoy life more this week if you take this challenge, okay? So, you with me? Yeah. All right, you with me? All right, let's keep going. So, it's this challenge, and it's the idea that we simply need to begin recognizing the good stuff now. The good stuff God has for us now and see it all as these gifts that God has given us. We don't need secret stuff. The things we do in private. We don't need to search out the high. We don't need to believe the lie that we can find it someplace else. God has given us and will continue to give us an immeasurable amount of good gifts. Good things only he can provide you. That only he can wake us up to because of the forgiveness and the way Jesus restores us to this new and amazing life. Don't you want that? Don't you want to see the good gifts? I mean, you wake up in the morning, and for us, sometimes that means waking up to a crying baby. And I could see that one way, or I could see it another way. I'm waking up a little earlier, but man, that's a gift. You go to work for the day, and you see the list of tasks you have to do. And you can see that as this exhausting thing you have to deal with. Or you can see it as good work God's called you to do and made available for you and a way to provide for your family. And it's an amazing gift that God has given you. You can come home tonight or go home at the end of the day, and you can see your family there. maybe one of your kids did something they weren't supposed to, or maybe you and your wife or significant other are like having a little spat, and there's something there, and you're not sure what to think about it. Remember that they're a gift. And then when you have that quiet moment at the end of the day and you're reflecting on it all, and it's like, it's messed up there, and I screwed up there, and this is so hard, and man, I'm feeling like I'm not what I'm supposed to be. You can remember the most amazing gift. Jesus wipes it clean. And that makes you no less who he's making you to be. No less an image bearer of God, someone that God sees as his child. That's an amazing gift. Are your eyes open? Open your eyes this week to these good gifts God has for you. I'm going to close with a prayer, and that prayer is going to be very simple, but I'm going to say the words, and they're for me, but if you want to own them for yourselves, I ask you to just pray right along with me in your mind. And the prayer is going to be this: God, I want you to open my eyes to this. And as he does that for us, give us the confidence to know that this is who we are and who he's made us to be, and live that way. So would you pray with me? Dear God, you are a good God, and we know this to be so incredibly true. We ask, God, that as we live our week this week and wake up tomorrow morning or spend the afternoon with our family this afternoon or whatever it is, we ask that you'd open our eyes. Open our eyes to these amazing good gifts that you have for us. These things that you provide in our lives that we could maybe see two ways, but are really these seeds of what's to come. This future reality that you know about and are planning, and you promise us. Help us to see the beginnings of that now, even amidst the struggle. And then, God, I ask that you give us confidence. Confidence to know that we are washed clean, purified because of what your son Jesus has done for us, and that we could live that way. Not in regret, but in joy, knowing that you have made us pure and that we can be your image bearers. We can show the world who you are and how good you are to us and what you have for us. Give us the courage to take that step this week. In Jesus' name we pray.